This is a presentation of the National University of Malaysia 6283 Qualitative Research Group assignment, a research project presentation on the topic of study on social adaptation of Malaysia Chinese international students. We are the second group, and our team members are Ying Hao, Xie Xiaoyu, Zhang Hanwen, Liu Luwei, and Li Xiaoyu. Our teacher is Dr. Azi. Before the formal presentation begins, I would like to introduce to you the main content of this presentation, which is divided into 9 main sections, namely, the source of the research topic of the group, the significance and the basis of the research topic, the current status of the research on the topic, the content of the research planned by the group on this topic, the key technologies used in this study, the final goal and the form of the results of this study, the organization of the group's research process on this topic, all the materials needed to complete the paper, the difficulties that are expected to be solved. The following is the official start of this report. This article was inspired by the doctoral dissertation of Meng Xia, PhD in Sociology at Wuhan University, China, entitled Social Adaptation of the Female Graduate Students, Chinese Female Students in the University. Using a feminist perspective as an entry point, this article conducted a qualitative study on the theme of social adjustment with dozens of Chinese female international students at the university through a semi-structured interview method, and thus summarized the level of social adjustment of Chinese female international students at the university, as well as proposed feasible method to improve social adjustment ability. In addition to the variable of social adjustment, the author also discussed the variables of psychological adjustment and social support, but do not analyze them further in the paper. Together with the research proposed by the authors in the discussion section of the paper that can be added in future research, the above combined form the basis of the content of this study. So why do we choose this topic? It is an objective topic based on social reality. According to official statistics from China, the number of Chinese students applying to study in Malaysia is 5 times higher than before the outbreak of the COVID-19 in 2020. And a few days ago, Malaysian officials also announced that a total of 50,000 people in the world applied to study in Malaysia last year. Such a high growth rate makes Malaysia a potential study area as well. Secondly, the level of social adjustment and the ability to appreciate social support are very important for international students. Of course, the number of papers using social adjustment of Chinese international students in Malaysia as a research variable is relatively small, especially when compared to the number of papers on this topic in other developed countries. The variable of social adaptation has been explored to a considerable extent by both Chinese and other researchers around the world, and is undoubtedly one of the most popular research topics. In brief, Chinese researchers generally agree that social adaptation is the process of adapting one's internal habits or personality to the external world. While the mainstream worldview, on the other hand, is that social adaptation refers to an individual's gradual habituation to pre-existing social norms and standards of behavior, and the ability to respond accurately to external stimuli within the limits of those standards. This adaptation is not entirely self-generated either. Many other external factors also play a role to some extent. Then, taking Chinese students in Malaysia as the research subjects, our group also summarized the 3 main research questions in this study, which were exploring the subject's level of social adjustment, exploring the subject's level of comprehending social support, and the subject's level of psychological adjustment. Based on the insights from previous articles, we attempt to break away from the feminist perspective to extend the study to all genders. It is worth mentioning that the social adjustment in this study consists of three dimensions: academic adjustment, life adjustment, and psychological adjustment. In this paper, we used three key technologies in the process of sampling data collection and to data analysis. And because the scope of subjects was limited to international students, we used the judgmental sampling method to select the subjects from undergraduate, graduate, and doctoral students. We used semi-structured interviews to ask the subjects questions about social adjustment prepared in advance. And the interviews were conducted in face-to-face, social software, and video formats. This semi-structured interview allows for more details content than other interview methods by allowing subjects to elaborate on their own personal experiences. The final goal of this research is the level of social adjustment and the current situation of Chinese students in Malaysia. The following four dimensions are included: life adaptation, psychological adaptation, academic adaptation, and integrated adaptation. The study was divided into 8 stages, starting with reading the literature to find a feasible or verifiable research topic. After deciding to use quantitative research with qualitative research, the second step was to design the questionnaire by inquiring about Chinese skills that could be administered to Chinese subjects to test the research variables. Then, due to the use of non-randomized sampling, the subjects for the qualitative research interviews were pre-screened, and the interviewees were decided after the screening. The next step was to record and organize the content of the interviews and use analysis software to code and integrate the textual data in order to summarize the high-frequency themes under several dimensions. The quantitative data from the skills were calculated using SPAS to see if the results matched the results of using qualitative research. As qualitative research, we focused on some specific subjects, and quantitative research tried to extend the characteristics of the sample to the whole population. Although there seems to be little difference, the starting point and the focus of qualitative and quantitative research are very different, so it is worthwhile to combine them for research purpose. Finally, the results of our current study are derived and discussed. The following are the interview questions used in this study, which have been evaluated by experts to ensure their reliability and feasibility. And we take a look at the interview questions for each dimension, excluding the name of the institution, major, and age, which collected the basic information. The academic section contains 4 questions, which are: what are the biggest problems compared to home? How was the interaction with teachers and other staff? Did you encounter any difficulties, and what did you do if you had them? How do you rate yourself academically in general? The life section contains 4 questions, which are: how's life here? Do you miss home? What do you think of the local people in Malaysia? Do you participate in social activities of Malaysians? How often do you attend? What is your role, and how do you feel about attending? And are there any foreigners' habits that you are uncomfortable with? What do they think of you, and what do they say about you? The psychological section contains 3 questions, which are: do you feel that you are the master of the school just like other students? How's the city where the school is located? And how's the Malaysia as the country? Do you feel lonely? And what if I feel tired? The overall section contains 3 questions, which are: do you want to go back to your country? What are your plans when you go back? What were your expectations before coming here? What is the purpose of coming here? If you had to choose again, would you choose to come here again? The scales used in the quantitative study were as follows. The psychological adjustment scale, developed by the Bioseeker, based on the interaction theory of stress and coping, was used to assess the level of psychological adjustment of the subjects. Subjects' level of perceived social support were measured using the PSS scale, which is commonly used in the field of medical psychology. The level of social adjustment were measured using the Chinese version of the PS scale, which has been modified based on the Chinese subjects. Finally, of course, there is an elaboration of the questions that this paper might be able to address. In other words, which is sort of the research hypothesis of this group study, in a kind of broad scope divided into 3 points as follows. Comparison of social adjustment levels of international students by gender, expanding quantitative methods in qualitative research on social adjustment. Comparative studies can be made with other countries where social adjustment is already available. Thank you for watching the presentation of the second group's research plan, and we hope it will bring you satisfactory results.